We got a massive New York Met trade incoming, reports revealing a wild update on a former New York Met who's actually displeased with the stadium that he plays in, and full disclosure, the team doesn't like him in return, and that is 2024 New York Met Luis Severino, who I personally love. He had a great 2024 with the Mets, so we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into his stats here in 2025 and the career numbers, and of course this drama that he has out in Sacramento with the A's, and why he could be coming to Flushing. We also have to talk about another former New York Mets starting pitcher who might be landing himself back in Queens. So plenty to go over, and it'll only be on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. I'll take you through all of it. And you know me, I'm a stats guy. I like to start off with some statistics. And today's stat is that 67.3% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So please do me a favor, do us a favor here at Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So, without further ado, let's talk Luis Severino. But first, we got to talk about this New York Met team. Right now, they are losing 7-2, 3 outs away from losing game 1 of the doubleheader against the Brewers. They are in danger of going to 10 games above 500 when less than 3 weeks ago, they were 21 games above the mark. So, right now, the Mets have to fix themselves. They have to do something to start winning ball games again. That way, we can actually talk about them being buyers at the deadline and some of these guys that they might go out and acquire. Because if they're not careful, they could end up being sellers at that July 31st deadline. Let's hope that's not the case. And let's hope they go out and get some of these guys because they wake up. But that is the primary concern. Then it's actually trading for guys. So let's go ahead and see two guys that they might actually trade for. Both starting pitchers and both former Mets. The first, of course, being Luis Severino. And we're going back to this article from Kylie McDaniel and Jeff Passan of ESPN titled Ranking MLB's Top 50 Trade Deadline Candidates. And they go on to say, quote, Severino tunnels his fastball sinker sweeper combo well to limit damage. But because he has a middling strikeout rate, his upside is limited to a number 3, number 4 starter. Teams are intrigued by his road numbers, which are exceptional. 0.93 ERA in 38 2/3 innings over 6 starts. I'll let you know early, these have changed without a home run allowed. They are not so intrigued by his contract, which goes 2 more years at $47 million. He's, of course, making $20 million this year in the midst of a 3-year deal that he signed this offseason with the A's. Now, ESPN has a chance of him being traded at 40%, with the best fits being the Toronto Blue Jays, Chicago Cubs, and of course our Amazons, the New York Mets. In all likelihood, he will, because rumors are saying that the A's don't want him. We'll hear that in just a little bit. And also the A's are not in it whatsoever. 36-52 at the time of filming. 16.5 games out of their division out there in the American League West. 9.5 back in the wild card, chasing 8 teams. They are the second worst team in the American League. So in all likelihood, they are going to be selling Severino. The question is where? And here's what I was talking about earlier. The A's, they don't even want him. According to Bridget Highland of New Jersey Advance Media, Sunday, Bob Nightingale of USA Today. Nightingale is a good reporter. He reports some pretty true stuff. We've heard his name a couple of times. He reported that the team, quote, can't wait, end quote, to trade the starter after comments he's made about their current home field in Sacramento. We'll hear those quotes in just a little bit, but first we're going to hear from Severino himself after his loss against a former team of his in the New York Yankees out there in the Bronx back on June 29th. He said, quote, I can't do nothing about it if they get mad or not. I just say what it is. If you ask me how I feel pitching at home, I'm not going to lie to you. Because at the end, you guys are going to figure out if it's a lie or not. My job is here to try and pitch, and every time you ask me a question, be honest with you guys. So that's what I did. And what exactly did he say that got the A's so angry and that got people so fed up? Well, he said this, quote, it feels like a spring training kind of game every time I pitch and every time other guys pitch. Now, of course, he is referring to playing at home at Sutter Health Ballpark. The A's, of course, moved from Oakland and are in the midst of moving to Las Vegas, but they needed 3 years in between to build a stadium out in Vegas, so they are currently playing at a minor league ballpark out in Sacramento, and they're actually sharing it with a AAA team, and this is why Severino made those comments, because they are indeed playing at a minor league stadium, but then again, so are the Tampa Bay Rays, so I get both sides. I get where Severino's coming from, but I definitely get the frustration in return, and then, in all likelihood, of course, the A's are going to trade him, because they don't want this kind of guy on on the team. But of course, if he comes back to the Mets, and we heard this last year, we saw this last year, he is not going to be this kind of guy. He's going to be a great guy in the locker room because we've seen it before. Now, before we go into that, let's take a look at the regular season stats here this year. Really, really bad. 2-9 with a 5.09 ERA in 18 games, 104 and a thirds innings pitched, just 71 Ks, so way less than 9 strikeouts per 9, and a pretty high whip at 138. A lot worse than his career numbers at a 3.94 ERA and 122 whip. But like you heard in the quote, one of the good things about him is he is much, much better on the road than he is at home. At home, 0-7 with a 6.79 ERA. And a 300 batting average against. On the road, however, 2-2, 3.04 ERA, and a 2.19 batting average against. That is obviously much, much better. So the away stats are far better, and that's probably why he made that comment about his home stadium. But let's go ahead and take a look at how he did last year in a New York Met uniform, and he was pretty solid. Went 11-7 with a 3.91 ERA, basically around his career numbers, in fact, a little bit better. So Sevy definitely had a good year with the Mets, and he was a big piece of that 2024 New York Met team that made it so far in the postseason. He was great pitching depth towards the back end of the rotation, and right now, with all the injuries with the New York Mets, and with guys still far on the horizon, they definitely need a starting pitcher, and Luis Severino would be a great get in my opinion. And you probably don't have to give up too much because of how angry he is with Sacramento and how angry Sacramento is with him. Can't really say Sacramento's the A's. They call themselves the A's, not the Sacramento A's, but that's just a side note. So I think Severino is going to be easy enough to get, and I think the Mets very well could get him. But let's take a look at another guy, another former Met who might be a little bit more difficult to get, and that is actually Seth Lugo. Here are his stats on your screen now. 5-5 this year with Kansas City with a 2.79 ERA, 108 whip, 76 strikeouts, and 88 2/3 innings pitched. Much better than his career numbers, of course, at a 3.32 ERA and 115 whip. So definitely a great player to go out and acquire in Seth Lugo. And this is actually reported by multiple outlets. Grant Young of Sports Illustrated, Christopher Klein of FanSided, Jackson Roberts of the Sporting News, the first and third people we have heard from multiple times in multiple different videos. Also, David Lennon of Newsday. He said this on Baseball Night in New York on SNY. So this is definitely real. This isn't just reporters who are looking to make a name for themselves, who are throwing out really interesting trades. These are people who are on these great shows and the big names in Major League Baseball who are reporting the potential of Seth Lugo returning to Flushing, and this could work. Right now, the Royals are 40-46 at the time that I'm filming, 13.5 back in the American League Central, 4.5 back in the wild card, but they are trailing 6 teams for that last wild card spot. So let's go ahead and break down Seth Lugo from the guys at ESPN. They say, quote, Lugo has posted mid-threes or lower ERAs for 5 seasons, despite having below-average fastball velocity and good, not great, strikeout rates. His ability to strand runners and limit hard contact comes in part due to his 9 different pitches. 9! Yes, 9 pitches. That's insane. Most starters throw 4, 5, maybe 6. Yeah, Seth Lugo is throwing 9 of them. That's incredible. With a Nathan Eovaldi type contract awaiting Lugo in free agency, Kansas City could opt to move him, especially if Cole Reagan's injured shoulder doesn't improve. And that makes a lot of sense. The Royals are not this kind of team like the Mets, like the Yankees, like the Red Sox, like the Dodgers, this big market team that wants to sign guys to long and big contracts. They want to keep people on the lower contract ends, and Lugo, of course, is going to get a pretty hefty contract when he goes into free agency, so he'll probably end up going to a big market team, so why not take advantage of it if you're Kansas City and get some prospects in return? Unfortunately, all of these reports have not given potential trades, so we'll see what the Mets end up doing. But there are rumors from Andy Martino of SNY, who is another reputable source, that the Mets are willing to give away guys like Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, Francisco Alvarez, some of these guys who were top prospects in the minor leagues, but have come up and shown themselves for a couple of years. So we'll see. We'll see where all of this winds up, but I would love, love, love Seth Lugo. He is great. Former Met. Met fans love him. I think it would be a great fit, as do I think Luis Severino would be a great fit. I think both of these guys that we went over today would be great gets for the New York Mets. So those are my thoughts on both Luis Severino and Seth Lugo. If the Mets are to actually go out and acquire a starting pitcher and are not sellers at the deadline, because let's take a look at the game. Yep, they just lost 7-2 to the Milwaukee Brewers. Another bad loss. Just 10 games above 500 now for a team that was the best in baseball less than 3 weeks ago. So hopefully the Mets can wake up and we can actually talk about trade deadline rumors, because the Mets are actually guaranteed to be buyers at the deadline. But let me know what you think down below. I'm a fan of both Lugo and Severino. Severino will be cheaper probably because he's worse statistically and he has those disputes out in Sacramento. But I'm a fan of both, as Andy Martino of SNY has also reported that some of these guys like Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos, they might be on their way out. The Mets are not going to hold on to them. So let me know what you think down below. Are either of these guys worth it? Give me your thoughts in the comments section. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you in today's video. Thank you so much as always for watching. And let's go Mets!